report, you can tell from the 4-page letter that there is on what Russia did. And we have to make decisions about backup paper ballots, about auditing our elections, about what kind of things that social media should do when they get paid ads in terms of telling us what they are and who's paying for them. So I think there's some serious security issues. But I also think, as you've seen this week, we can do two things at once. And when the president, right after the attorney general issues his 4 pages, when his Justice Department says they're going to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, I think people looked up and they said, you know, no matter where we are on the Mueller investigation, the one thing we do know for sure is we don't want anyone to take our health care away, and we don't want to be kicked off our insurance for a pre-existing condition. So for me, we have to do two things at once. Safeguard our democracy, get that report so we can read it and figure out what's in it, but then also focus on an optimistic economic agenda for this country.
So you have time on the ACA. If they go the route of fighting it in court, either it winds up the way it has before, which is at the appellate level. They say, well, we've got 2 cases at the Supreme Court level. You lose. This district court judge said what he said doesn't hold water. Or if it surprisingly goes the other way and goes to SCOTUS, you got time. There is an exigent circumstance going on right now, and I hear none of you talking about it. The president talked about it in the rally tonight, but he talked about it, in my opinion, the wrong way. The brown menace is not the problem at the border. It's kids and family units. The people who are in charge are overwhelmed. They're crying for help. I hear none of you talking about it. Am I missing the reality, or are you guys asleep at the switch?
No, I think we would love to see, first of all, comprehensive immigration reform and doing something so we have security at the border, but we also work with those countries in Central America, and we change that policy in terms of making sure that those families are safe and held together. So I think you've seen us focus on this, but our problem is every time we try to move on a sensible policy, the president uses it as a wedge. So I like to think about immigration reform as an economic issue. And nearly 70 of our Fortune 500 companies are headed up by immigrants, 25% of our U.S. Nobel laureates born in other countries. And that bill we passed, that would have brought the debt down by $158 billion, and it would have given a path to citizenship to people.
Right.
So I think you have to see it as a comprehensive plan, and that's what the American people wanted years ago. And once you have a president in place that talks about it in terms of not just the border, but also economics, we're going to have the people with us.
All right. Here's the problem. I hear you on the long view. And also, we're going to argue that same perspective about your infrastructure plan, which I think is really ambitious. I'll get to it in a second. But you have an emergency right now. And as somebody who wants to be the clarion call in this country, the leader of this country, they need help now. They literally, metaphorically, have their back against a wall. They don't have the resources, the case agents. They're doing catch and release like they've never done it before, Senator. The stories I'm hearing from the people in charge, I can't even believe them. We sent a reporter down there, Ed Lavandera, because I can't believe what they're telling me, and I was just there a few weeks ago. Isn't there something that can be done now to give the men and the women keeping us safe more?
Well, of course, we just put aside over $1 billion for security at the border. But the problem is, of course, the president doesn't want to work with us on some sensible ideas. Instead, he wants to put all that money into the wall. And then instead of using that money for projects, for military projects, and for helping the personnel that you're talking about, he just wants to build that wall and keep using it as a rally at his campaign rallies, and as a chant back and forth with his supporters. And I just don't think it's a way to govern. And I'm not surprised. I think it's horrible that not just the workers, but the families involved in this have to have this on their backs. And I think the way you solve it is by putting someone, I have a law enforcement background. I understand the challenges they face, but put people in place and an administration in place that doesn't govern by chaos. And that's what they've been doing. So when you have legitimate needs of people and workers at the border, you meet those needs. But you don't meet them by spending $8 billion on a wall.
So, and look, I'm bringing it up because I see opportunity there for leadership, not because you particularly are responsible for it, obviously, although you have a very interesting and diverse issue of your own up in Minnesota. So you're trying to figure out how to make your mark, distinguish yourself from the field, as you should at this point in the process. And you put out first a comprehensive infrastructure plan. There's some ambitious proposals in there. You also go into how you think you can get it done. Here's my question to you. Nobody wins because they're for infrastructure. Nobody goes and pulls the lever because of infrastructure, although we always need it. I've lived through generations of Cuomos fighting for infrastructure and never being rewarded for it. But here's the thing, Senator, why do you lead with that? And how do you get it done when you know you're facing a culture of opposition day one if you get in?
I lead with this because it is a bread and butter issue. It means jobs, but it also means getting ourselves out of traffic jams and getting our goods to market. And of course, as you know, at my Snow Globe announcement, I talked about health care. I talked about workforce training and immigration reform and so many of the challenges, our place in the world that we face right now. But I chose to announce my candidacy in front of that Mississippi River, a mile away from them. That bridge collapsed in the middle of the river on a beautiful summer day, a mile from my house. 13 people died. And the world was focused on our state that day. What did we do? Well, I got the money, across the aisle, got the money to rebuild that bridge in a little over a year. But there are more bridges like that, as you know. There are subway systems. There are rural roads, rural broadband. Iceland is completely outfitted in rural broadband, and the United States of America isn't. So I see this not just as some old-fashioned infrastructure plan, but as a way to move our country forward, to export our goods to the world, but also to make sure that we are reaching people. Our schools, the schools in Baltimore this past winter, some of them didn't even have heat.
That's right.
So if you ask, do people vote on it? They vote on the economy. They vote for the future of their families. And they vote when they want to have a country they're proud of. And this president has been promising infrastructure on the campaign trail from the day that he started running to the day he got elected to now. And he hasn't delivered.
And a little bit of a nod to easy to say, hard to do. But it certainly is a proper ambition. Quick thing before I let you go. Very early, so early that if I had any shame, I'd be embarrassed to ask. But in the polling right now, your relative position is not great. As people are deciding who to back, who's worth paying attention to, what do you say to them about why to give Klobuchar a nod, even though she's in the low single digits?
Well, first of all, there was a poll today in Iowa where I was in the top 5, 6, 7. I mean, there is a group of us that are kind of in the same range and clearly have registered with voters, but it is early. And let me give you why I want to be president. As I've said, I am tired of governing from chaos. I want to govern from opportunity. I'm from the heartland. I'm someone that likes to get things done. I have a very strong record in the United States Senate for passing bills, for working across the aisle. And some people may think that's out of vogue to actually get things done for this country. I don't. And I also am able to win in hard areas where maybe it's not comfortable to go and it can be uncomfortable. But I have 3 times now won every congressional district in my state, including the one formerly held by Michelle Bachmann. So I think we need someone that can bring people together, find that common ground, get things done, and go to a higher plane in our politics.
And you didn't even get froze face in sub-zero temperatures during that announcement.
But I did get to see myself grow old in 20 minutes as the snow mounted on my hair.
Just wait until the end of this campaign, and let's see how you feel about yourself then. As I offer all the candidates...
Thank you for that good advice.
After I offer all the candidates, we will chase you as appropriate, but please see this show as a forum when you can come on and be tested about what matters to the people as the campaign goes on. We make that offer to all of you and certainly to you, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you very much, Chris.
All right, be well. You saw the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee right here on this program last night, Adam Schiff, firing back at the Republicans. Since then, he got this infusion of emotion and opportunity. He was face to face with his critics today, and he looked them in the eye. Many of them didn't look back, and he let them have it. Wait until you see this. And I'm telling you, it's the most important story that no one is talking about, at least not enough. The people in charge of protecting the U.S. border are crying out for help. The president was at a rally making it all about bad hombres and blaming others.